They laughed before he even sat down. Not loudly, no, that would have been rude, but in the quiet, polished way people do when they've already decided you don't belong. The kind of laughter that lives in raised eyebrows, exchanged glances, and a resume placed face down on a glass table. Daniel noticed all of it. He always did. And as he adjusted the cheap tie he'd borrowed from his neighbor, he had no idea that in less than 10 minutes, the same room would be dead silent, because the man they underestimated was about to save the company they thought was untouchable. Daniel had woken up at 4:30 a.m. that morning, not because he wanted to, but because his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, had crawled into his bed after another nightmare. He didn't mind. He never did. He just held her until her breathing slowed, then stared at the ceiling, counting the hours he had left before the interview. This job wasn't a career move. It was survival. Rent was 2 weeks late. The fridge held half a carton of milk and a packet of ketchup. And Lily's school had sent another polite email about the unpaid lunch balance. Daniel had answered with the same lie he always used, "I'll take care of it soon." By the time he dropped Lily off at school, his hands were already shaking. Not fear, focus. He'd worked his whole life like this, running on pressure, solving problems under weight. As a former systems engineer turned warehouse supervisor turned night shift fixer for hire, Daniel wasn't flashy. He didn't have the buzzwords. What he had was a brain that refused to quit and a heart that didn't allow failure when someone depended on him. The interview room belonged to Kestrel Dynamics, a tech firm known for aggressive growth and even more aggressive egos. 5 people sat across from him. 4 executives. 1 CEO. Ethan Crow. Young, sharp, celebrated. A man whose confidence could fill the room without effort. Daniel recognized him immediately, not from admiration, but from necessity. He'd read everything he could the night before, while Lily slept beside him, clutching his arm. They asked Daniel about his gaps in employment. He answered honestly. They asked why he hadn't stayed in one role long enough to grow. He explained caregiving, layoffs, real life. One of them smirked. Another interrupted him mid-sentence. Ethan leaned back, arms crossed, watching like it was all mildly entertaining. Then came the question that sealed their opinion. "So," one executive said, tapping a pen, "why should we take a risk on someone like you?" Someone like you. Daniel paused. Not because he didn't have an answer, but because he knew the truth wouldn't impress them. Before he could speak, a notification chimed from the large screen behind them. A system alert. One executive frowned. Another checked a tablet. The room shifted. "What is it?" Ethan asked. A junior assistant rushed in, pale. "Sir, the Phoenix rollout servers just crashed. Live clients are getting errors. The backup failed." Silence. Phoenix was Kestrel's crown jewel. A platform update scheduled to go live that afternoon. Millions invested. Press lined up. Stock projections hinging on a flawless launch. Ethan stood. "Get IT in here. Now." "They're already working," the assistant said. "They can't isolate the fault. It's spreading." Daniel hadn't meant to speak. It just happened. "Your load balancer is looping," he said quietly. 5 heads turned. "I'm sorry," Ethan said. "The balancer is treating the new authentication layer as external traffic. It's rejecting itself. That's why the backup failed too." They're mirrored. One executive scoffed. "We've got a full team on that." Daniel nodded. "I know. They're probably looking at the code. But this isn't code. It's logic. You patched speed without recalibrating trust." The room went still. Ethan stared at him. "Can you fix it?" Daniel looked at the screen. At the clock. At the memory of Lily's lunch balance. "Yes," he said. "In seconds." They laughed again. Not politely this time. Disbelief, sharp and dismissive. Ethan didn't. He handed Daniel a tablet. "Show me." Daniel's fingers moved with calm precision. He disabled one redirect, rewrote a single rule, and rerouted authentication through a local loop. The alert stopped. Then another. Then none. A message popped up. "System stable." The room froze. Within minutes, the assistant returned, breathless. "Traffic's normal. Clients are back online. The rollout stabilized." No one spoke. Ethan slowly smiled. Not the confident one he wore before, but something closer to awe. Daniel handed back the tablet. "I just need the job," he said softly. "If you think the story ends there, you're wrong, because the real test wasn't fixing the crisis. It was what happened after, when power shifted, egos cracked, and a single dad who'd been laughed at had to decide what kind of man he'd be when the room finally listened. They didn't shake his hand right away. They didn't apologize. People rarely do when they realize they were wrong. Instead, they asked questions. Rapid fire. Technical. Defensive. Daniel answered all of them with patience, not pride. He wasn't there to win. He was there to work. Ethan dismissed the others and asked Daniel to stay. You didn't just fix a problem, Ethan said. You exposed a blind spot. Daniel shrugged. Everyone has them. I built this company on speed, Ethan continued. I didn't think about stability. Daniel thought of Lily, clutching his arm in the dark. Speed's fine, he said. As long as someone's watching what happens when it stops. Ethan offered him the job. Senior systems lead. Salary that made Daniel's chest tighten. Benefits. Flexibility. Daniel hesitated. I need one thing, he said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. If my daughter calls, I answer. If her school needs me, I go. I won't apologize for that. Ethan studied him, then nodded. Deal. Months later, Kestrel Dynamics was thriving. Not just faster, but smarter. Daniel didn't just fix systems. He changed culture. Mentored quietly. Listened deeply. He became the person people went to when things broke, not because he was loud, but because he was steady. One afternoon, Lily sat in the office lobby doing homework while Daniel finished a meeting. She looked up at the glass walls, the people rushing past, the place her dad had once been laughed out of. When Daniel came out, she smiled. Did you fix something today? He knelt beside her. Yeah, he said. I did. And for the first time in a long time, he knew they were going to be okay. Because sometimes, the world doesn't reward loud confidence or perfect resumes. Sometimes, it rewards the ones who carry responsibility quietly, and still show up ready to solve the impossible in seconds. They laughed before he even finished saying his name. Not the loud kind of laughter, no, this was worse. Soft chuckles. Side glances. The kind of amusement that tells you the decision has already been made. Daniel Carter felt it instantly, the invisible wall rising between him and the 5 people sitting across the glass table. Single father. Worn suit. Cheap shoes. In their eyes, he didn't look like someone who belonged in a room where million-dollar decisions were made. What none of them knew was this: the next few minutes would decide the future of their company, and only one person in that room was capable of saving it. Daniel hadn't slept much the night before. His daughter Lily had cried herself to sleep after asking a question he didn't know how to answer. Daddy, are we poor? He'd smiled, lied gently, and promised her everything would be okay. Then he stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying interview questions in his head while calculating how many days of food were left in the fridge. This interview wasn't about ambition. It was about survival. The CEO, Ethan Crow, sat at the center. Young, confident, untouchable, the kind of man magazines love to praise. Ethan skimmed Daniel's resume with a faint smirk. Too many gaps, too many short-term jobs, too many explanations that didn't sound like success. So, one executive said, tapping his pen, you've jumped around a lot. Why should we believe you'll last here? Daniel answered calmly. He talked about layoffs, about caring for a child alone, about doing whatever work was necessary to keep life moving forward. His words landed flat. One woman raised an eyebrow. Another leaned back, already bored. Then it happened. The massive screen behind them flashed red. Alerts stacked on top of each other. A tense silence swallowed the room. What's going on? Ethan asked. A panicked assistant rushed in. Sir, the Phoenix system just crashed. Live rollout. Clients are dropping. IT can't find the fault. Phoenix. The company's biggest launch. Months of hype. Millions on the line. Executives stood up, voices overlapping. Phones came out. The room filled with controlled chaos. Daniel stared at the screen. His heart didn't race. His mind slowed. It's not the code, he said quietly. The room stopped. One man laughed. Excuse me. Your load balancer, Daniel continued. It's rejecting internal authentication as external traffic. You built speed but forgot trust logic. Silence. Ethan turned slowly. Are you saying you know how to fix it? Daniel nodded. Yes, right now. Another laugh. Louder this time. Ethan didn't laugh. He handed Daniel a tablet. Then do it. Daniel's fingers moved with steady precision. One rule changed. One redirect removed. A loop corrected. The alerts vanished. A moment later, the assistant burst back in. "Sir, systems are stable. Clients are back." No one spoke. The laughter was gone. And just like that, the man they dismissed became the most important person in the room. But the real story was only beginning, because fixing a system is easy compared to changing minds. Ethan asked everyone else to leave. The door closed softly. For the first time, Daniel felt seen, not judged, not measured, just seen. "You didn't just save Phoenix," Ethan said. "You exposed a weakness no one else noticed." Daniel shrugged. "Pressure does that. It shows you what matters." Ethan offered him the job on the spot. Senior role. High salary. Benefits Daniel had never dreamed of. The kind of offer people begged for. Daniel hesitated. "There's something you should know," he said. "My daughter comes first. If she needs me, I leave. No excuses. No apologies." Ethan studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "That's not a weakness," he said. "That's leadership." Months passed. Kestrel dynamics changed. Not just faster, but smarter. More human. Daniel became the quiet backbone of the company, solving problems before they exploded, mentoring without ego. People stopped asking where he came from. They started asking how he saw things so clearly. One evening, Lily sat in the lobby coloring while Daniel wrapped up work. She looked around at the towering glass walls and whispered, "Is this where you fix things?" Daniel knelt beside her, smiling. "Yeah," he said. "It is." And in that moment, he understood something powerful. The world often laughs at what it doesn't understand. But skill, resilience, and love have a way of silencing rooms. Because sometimes, the person everyone overlooks isn't behind, they're just carrying more weight. And when the moment comes, they don't panic. They solve the crisis in seconds, and change everything. Forever.